Welcome to WEWIN New. Smoke billowing burning plane wreckage on runway after Montana small plane crash. Plane crashes into sea off Durban's Suncoast Beach during air show. UPS B748 at Taipei engine pod strike on landing. The plane was wobbling and had an accident while preparing to land. The pilot handled it skillfully. TUIB 7003 at Vasa, engine shut down in flight. The plane had an accident and had to make an emergency landing. Low DH-8D at Warsaw, loss of hydraulic system. UPS MD-11 at Warsaw, engine shut down, flames out of engine after landing. A light aircraft, a Piper Cherokee, made an emergency landing and crashed onto the Mona Vale Golf Course in northern Sydney. People nearby quickly rushed to help. A Caspian Airlines Boeing 737-400 suffered a broken left main gear during landing in Isfahan, Iran. The aircraft was evacuated using emergency slides. Angara AN24 at Tynda on June 24, 2025. Aircraft missing after go-around found crashed. Crash of a Robinson R-22 Beta at Pearland Regional Airport, Texas. Jubert F-50 in Mogadishu on June 8, 2022 flipped over on landing after left wing separated. Swiss A333 over Atlantic hydraulic failure. PIA A320 at Karachi. Impacted residential area during final approach. Emergency landing crash at Star Stripes Airshow in Laured. JetBlue BCS-3 at Boston on June 12, 2025. Runway excursion on landing. Road sinkhole swallows moving car. The warehouse fire in Hamburg, Germany, August 25, 2025. Firefighters were then on the scene, assisted by airport firefighters. Even though it was going through a curve, the pickup truck was still moving at high speed, causing it to lose control, veer into the opposite lane and cause a series of accidents. Cement mixer truck road collapse. The car collided with the door at the entrance to the parking lot. The saw blade suddenly closed, causing the front of the car to be deformed and damaged. Crane collapse Australia. A car suddenly crossed the lane to overtake and collided with a truck, causing a loud crash. Scene of a car on the road burning fiercely. The raging oil fire was extinguished with water, resulting in an even larger oil explosion.
The guy got out though.
The impact of the crash sent both vehicles into the front parking lot of Westside Market. Fire starts to spark from one of the squad cars. Fort Lauderdale fire rescue crews responded to the scene. Traffic accident in Ibrezin area. A heavy truck collided head-on with a car, pinning it between a vehicle carrying a tank. The car suddenly reversed and collided with the car with the camera behind.
Supported and helps during tough times. The Pandy uses AI-powered motion sensors that gently react to your touch. So when you cuddle it, it actually cuddles. Come on.
Sinkhole opens up on Chinese road seconds after scooter drives past. The small truck had to suddenly turn right and brake hard to avoid a head-on collision with a large truck coming from the opposite direction that stopped and tilted on the edge of the road. The truck driver reacted quickly, turned the wheel in time and braked hard, helping to avoid a serious accident. Electric car collided with Honda car. Luckily, no one was injured. The car hit a bear on the road. After the accident, the bear was still alive, the car was damaged and left traces. Train crashes into bi-articulated BRT bus in Curitiba, Brazil, splitting it in two. Bridge under construction collapses. During what was intended to be a routine test flight in New Zealand, a Whitman Tailwind W10 aircraft experienced a failure that led to a crash. Microlight crash occurred unexpectedly in France, turning what was meant to be a routine and recreational flight into a harrowing experience. On 22 November, an Azul Linhas Aéreas ATR 72-600 operated a domestic flight between Aracaju and Recife, Brazil. During landing at Recife, however, the aircraft struck its tail on the runway.
Eita danado!
On September 23, 2023, an Ilyushin Il-76 suffered an accident during landing at Gao International Airport, Mali. The aircraft touched down late on runway, 2,500 meters long, and failed to stop on the remaining runway. It traveled another 380 m, passed the end of the runway, crossed a perimeter road, and went down an embankment. The crash of the aircraft in Lages, Santa Catarina, occurred on April 2, 2010, during an aerial demonstration in Pelotas, Brazil. The pilot was unable to recover the aircraft in time, resulting in a crash near the runway. The accident occurred in front of approximately 10,000 spectators. However, no one on the ground was injured. On April 3, 2013, a plane crashed in Toowoomba, Australia, after a problem developed with the twin aircraft's undercarriage. It skidded along a runway nose first at 200 metres when its front landing wheel failed to deploy. The pair escaped unharmed, although they were shaken by the experience. During the Flug Mieti Emmen on July 24, 2010, the Rutan Long EZ registered HBYDB experienced a hard landing upon approach, striking the ground with significant force that caused structural stress to the airframe. Check. A micro-light accident occurred during landing, and while it might seem a bit humorous in hindsight, the passenger had to admit it was genuinely frightening, especially considering it was his very first flight. The sudden jolt, the unexpected loss of control, and the rush of adrenaline made for an experience I won't soon forget.
Descendez vite.
Magnifique.
On May 26, 2025, an AN24 aircraft operated by Angara Airlines, flying from Irkutsk to Kirensk, Russia, rolled off the runway after landing at Kirensk Airport. The aircraft veered off the runway and came to rest in the grass. There were 46 passengers and 5 crew aboard. No injuries were reported. The Twin Beach appears to blow the right tyre on takeoff roll, then veers off of the runway into grass. There were no injuries and no damage to the plane. This was at Nut Tree Airport in Vacaville, California on September 5, 2009 during the Mustang Days event.
Okay.
The total cargo B737 had a fire aboard and made an emergency landing in Guarulhos, Brazil. All 2 aboard survived. Footage from the jet shows extensive damage in the fuselage. Crew evacuated via escape rope from the cockpit. On March 5, 2010, at Yao Airport in Japan, an aircraft accident occurred during a touch-and-go training exercise when the aircraft failed to properly lift off again after touchdown. There were no injuries. However, this also presents significant safety risks, as the powerful jet blast from departing or arriving aircraft can pose hazards to people standing nearby, as well as to unsecured objects that may be blown away or damaged by the force.
la merde.
Maybe gearbox seizure. Before takeoff, the propeller would have been driven irregularly, causing it to surge, and when you've never flown, it's not difficult to imagine that the hardest part isn't taking off, but landing. The aircraft reported engine failure and then began to lose altitude significantly and ended up landing next to the runway, as can be seen in the video. On May the 3rd of 2025, a Fugger Zephyr trainer jet nearly made a belly landing at High-Res Airport in France. While approaching to land after a training mission, the landing gear was not deployed at the appropriate time. Just as the fuselage was about to touch the runway, the pilot suddenly extended the landing gear. Due to low altitude and insufficient distance, a safe landing was impossible, so the pilot initiated a go-around. After readjusting, the trainer landed successfully. This happened just north of Winnipeg, Canada, and the aircraft was the first version with PT-667 turboprop. The control locks were still locked when the aircraft took off.
I cannot believe it.
An airplane made an unusual landing at Charlotte Douglas International Airport, North Carolina, on June 28, 2023, when its landing gear failed to work properly. The plane's nose landing gear failed to deploy, but the pilots were still able to safely land the plane. It had 2 pilots, 3 flight attendants, and 96 passengers on board. The passengers and crew exited the plane through the slides and were taken to the terminal on a bus. On November 11, 2010, at Benton Harbor Airport, Michigan, a small aircraft was forced to make an emergency landing after experiencing a failure of its nose landing gear, resulting in a crash landing that caused the front of the plane to collapse upon touchdown. Fortunately, no injuries were reported among those on board. A small plane crashed down at DeKalb Peachtree Airport on February 16, 2023. The encountered engine problems shortly after takeoff and had to return to the airport. It made a left-hand turn before quickly descending and slamming into the ground. The plane hit the cable of a glider tug and quickly spiraled out of control in Gap, France. The pilot then deployed an ingenious integrated parachute system, saving his life. A Sopwith Camel narrowly avoided a ground loop during landing as the aircraft began to yaw uncontrollably while decelerating on the runway, but the pilot skillfully corrected the drift just in time. United Airlines Flight 232 was a regularly scheduled United Airlines flight from Stapleton International Airport in Denver to O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, continuing to Philadelphia International Airport. On July 19, 1989, the plane crash-landed at Sioux City, Iowa, after suffering a catastrophic failure of its tail mount engine due to an unnoticed manufacturing defect in the engine's fan disc, which led to the loss of many flight controls. A Russia Mi-28 attack helicopter crashed during the Aviadars air show on August 2, 2015 in central Russia. The helicopter began spinning uncontrollably, then slammed into the ground and burst into flames. The surviving pilot reported a hydraulic failure in flight control systems as the proximate cause. There were no spectator injuries, as the display area was kept well clear of crowds. A Cobra helicopter crashed while chasing a Corvette for top gear at an Arizona airstrip. The race ended with Vette crossing the finish line first, but immediately after, the Cobra began banking sharply, lost control and crashed hard into the desert turf just beyond the line. On April 2, 2010, a plane from the Smoke Squadron crashes, almost hit the public in Largesse, Santa Catarina. The Brazilian Air Force's investigative body later confirmed that the operation had been routine, but final conclusions regarding causal factors were documented in a confidential military report completed in March 2012.
Piloto, gente!
On August 17, 2018, at the Steinbach Regional Airport in Manitoba, Canada, a light aircraft experienced a malfunction with its landing gear during the final approach, forcing the pilot to perform a belly landing on the runway. On November 27, 2024, a jet Boeing 787 was taking off from Sydney International Airport, bound for Phuket, Thailand. It bursts a tire on the right main landing gear moments after the nose gear is lifted off runway. It gets airborne and landing gear remains extended. Plane holds to the northwest of the airport, dumping excessive fuel for landing. With more than 300 passengers on board, it returns to the airport 1 hour, 24 minutes after takeoff without incident. Soon after landing, the airport was engulfed in a heavy storm. A small aircraft was forced to make an emergency belly landing after experiencing landing gear failure mid-flight. But thanks to the pilot's exceptional skill and composure under pressure, the plane was brought down safely. On May 6, 2023, a U.S. Air Force F-16C Fighting Falcon assigned to the 8th Fighter Wing crashed near Osan Air Base in South Korea during a routine training flight. The aircraft went down in an agricultural area roughly 10 nautical miles from the base. On April 2, 2023, an Airbus helicopter crashed near Chelsea, Alabama. The helicopter was operated as an air ambulance flight. Witnesses saw a helicopter along the side of a road about 100 feet away and 3 to 4 feet above the ground. The helicopter came over the trees, going out of view for about 1 second, then reappearing in a steep nose-down attitude before impacting the road. It then slid about 20 feet before coming to rest in the grass. On September 14, 1997, during the Chesapeake Air Show at Martin State Airport near Baltimore, Maryland, an F-117, a Nighthawk stealth fighter, experienced a catastrophic in-flight structural failure. The jet then entered a flat spin and crashed into a residential area about a mile from the airport, igniting a fireball. It is still in limited operational use, despite its official retirement in 2008. The Air Force has indicated its intention to continue flying the F-117A fleet until at least 2034. The pilot is found with only a scratch on his nose and reflects that he followed emergency plans, though the crash left the aircraft in pieces. News crews and the FAA used the video for investigation. The video helped reveal the tail rotor stopped turning. On July 25, 2000, Air France flight, a Concorde supersonic airliner, tragically crashed shortly after takeoff from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, en route to New York City. The debris caused a tire to explode, sending fragments into the underside of the wing, which ruptured the fuel tank. The resulting fuel leak ignited, leading to a fire that incapacitated the aircraft's engines and flight controls. In the wake of the crash, both Air France and British Airways grounded their Concorde fleets. The aircraft returned to service in November 2001. The Pentagon released video of what it is calling an unnecessarily aggressive maneuver of an US Air Force warplane by a Chinese military jet on May 26, 2023. On February 11, 2024, a Beech A-35 emergency landing near Maricopa, Arizona. The pilot and 2 passengers were not injured. The pilot's failure to properly configure the landing gear and verify its position before landing, which resulted in a gear-up landing. During a real go-round maneuver at Houston Airport, both pilots meticulously ensured that maximum power was applied and maintained at a low altitude to execute a safe and controlled go-round procedure after aborting the initial approach, successfully initiating a second approach with heightened situational awareness and adherence to standard operating procedures.
Next 20.
Go around, call 971, heavy. Flex 20. Positive rate. You're right. Check speed brake. Heading gear. Down. Pick up. That's normal. Another.
A Bell helicopter clipped a hangar building while attempting to depart from Sky Park Airport in Bountiful, Utah. The pilot reported there was no mechanical failure and noted there were no signs of impairment when speaking with the pilot. NATO military personnel on board of CP-14 Aurora spy planes feeling uncomfortable getting intercepted by a Chinese fighter jet over the East China Sea. Seem the Chinese PLA Air Force fighter jet is repelling a US Air Force reconnaissance aircraft. The two planes are only 3 meters apart. At the famously close quarters airport on the Greek island of Skiathos, a jet's powerful takeoff blast created a dramatic scene as onlookers standing just meters from the runway were nearly knocked off their feet by the intense rush of air. On December 4, 2015, a British aerospace operated by Washington Corporation Leasing executed a textbook emergency belly landing at Palm Springs International Airport after the landing gear failed to deploy. The crew held in a pattern, dumped fuel to reduce weight, and returned to Palm Springs for a gear-up landing. Weather at La Aurora Airport was poor. Rain showers were in the area on April 6, 1993. The pilot in command steered the airplane to the left some 300 feet short of the runway end. The Boeing 767 then struck the perimeter fence, went down a hill, crashed through a cinder block house and struck another house. On December 28, 2022, a Piper PA-28 Archer, operated by Belluno Air Club, was conducting a scenic flight over the Italian Alps near the Veneto-Trentino border with a 22-year-old student pilot and 2 passengers when the engine lost power. The aircraft emergency landing on a mountainside at around 2,100 meters altitude. With little time to react in the mountains, the pilot expertly chose a snowy uphill slope to set the plane down, maintaining the nose-up attitude to absorb the landing and avoid a nose-first crash. All 3 occupants, the pilot, her brother, and his fiancée, exited the plane on their own. A mountain rescue helicopter later airlifted them to safety. On March 11, 1988, during a training flight over East Sail Base in Victoria, Australia, preparing for an upcoming Canberra airshow, the Royal Australian Air Force's aerobatic team, the Roulettes, experienced a mid-air collision.
Only 600 metres from a farmhouse to the northeast of the RAF base between Sale and Lake Wellington. Squadron leader Jeff Trappett managed to control his Mackie.
What a complicated way to start such a Sikorsky vintage rotary aircraft. The incident took place in 2018 during a recovery mission for another downed helicopter in Colombia's rural southwestern Cauca district. The first helicopter, which had been carrying valuable equipment, had gone down a week prior due to technical issues, prompting a retrieval mission. Suddenly, the aircraft tips to the side. A A Eurocopter AS-355 helicopter crashed into the sea near the Vouliagmeni Marina in southern Athens, Greece on June 15, 2025. Azimuth Airlines Sukhoi Superjet loses its right engine cowling on departure from Moscow's Vernakova International Airport. On May 16, 2019, an F-16 from the South Dakota Air National Guard on a training mission near Marsh Air Reserve Base suffered a sudden loss of hydraulic pressure during a drill. The hydraulic failure, caused by two improperly installed check valves in the flight control system, rendered the aircraft uncontrollable, forcing the pilot to burn off fuel and eject safely before the jet crashed into a nearby warehouse in Riverside, California.
That's a military airplane in our building.
Thankfully, the warehouse's sprinkler system activated upon impact, extinguishing any fire. Environmental concerns were also noted, as the wreck posed potential exposure risks from hydrazine. Mid-air refueling of an aeroplane involves a highly coordinated and precise maneuver where the receiving aircraft carefully approaches and maintains close formation with the tanker aircraft, aligning with the refueling boom or hose and drogue system. The finish line is here. Don't forget to give us a like button and share your road encounters in the comments, and don't miss the video on the right side of the screen. See you soon.